Good evening and welcome to Black Muse. Black Muse is where creatives from the worlds of jazz, hip hop, gospel, politics, sports, fashion, theater, and literature engage in the lively art of conversation. My name is Doris Davenport and I'm contributing host to the Black Muse podcast. I am so excited to bring to you today a man whom I call a true Renaissance man. Everybody can't legitimately wear that label, but there are those men that we see. They start young, and as they age, they just keep getting better. And I've got one of those young men in front of me today. His name is Mr. Raymond Thomas. He's an artist, he's an author, he's a filmmaker, he's a graphic artist, he's a fine artist. And yes, the ladies say he is fine, but you judge for yourself. Wow. Welcome to Black Muse podcast. How you doing there, Raymond?
I'm single too, so I'm gonna throw that out there while you get started.
See, you open up the door, we'll have to come back.
I'm gonna get some mail. I'm good, sister. Hey, how you doing? What's good?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to interview you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much I want people to know about you. So out of the gate, full disclosure, I have known this man for a really, really long time. Yep. I think we started working together back in 1988 at Johnson Publishing Company. Yeah. And we've been friends ever since, meandering in and out of each other's lives. Yes. So I want to talk about that history. So let's really talk about this journey of yours. Now, you know, and what I know about you is you're somebody who, as a little boy, even as early as 2, 3, and 4 years old, you were scribbling on magazines that your mom had in the home, Ebony, Jet. And what we're going to find out is that you came to become the creative director of the very companies that published the magazines you were scribbling on at 3 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
When did you know that you were an artist?
I've always known that I was an artist. I mean, all my life, as you stated, my mom kind of started seeing me scribble in magazines and books and things like that. And she's seen the talent. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And I was a little nappy-headed boy who could draw, and all of that was nurtured through the years. I was able to get a scholarship to the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, and that was a blessing. And from there, I was hired by Johnson Publishing Company. But through all those little steps, there were nurturing and encouragement from my family and a great deal of the village.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that village. You are somebody who has been raised by some tremendous women. I understand that women are a species that really, in a way, is a muse to you. Tell me about your mom and your grandmothers.
Wow, you know, growing up in St. Louis, you know, St. Louis can be a very hard place, and my father, unfortunately, was not around. He was drug addict, and so my mother and my grandmother's pretty much raised me to be the man that I am. But these were some strong, super sisters, stronger than any dudes, any cats. I mean, these sisters were incredible. My mom was an activist in St. Louis in the community. My grandmother was a legendary business owner and no nonsense. My mother's mother and my other grandmother, she raised all of her grandkids when her own children succumbed to drugs and alcohol. So they were just these incredible women who instilled in me the capacity to dream, intestinal fortitude to push on, and made me who I am.
Yeah, yeah. So you really were one of these. When I hear the artists
Making me tear up.
Oh,
Already thinking about them sisters.
that's right. That's right. When I think about the artist who sang "I Was Born That Way," you were born an artist. I mean, that's you started out as an artist and you've never looked back.
Yeah, it's and I know that's special. I mean, everyone isn't able to. You know, a lot of people are grasping for what they want to do. I never had to do that. I always knew I would be doing what I'm doing, and the levels in which I've been able to do it, I attribute to the blessings of the Creator, and then all the incredible ancestors in my family. But you know, it was always an innate gift that I had to make things. I consider myself a storyteller, a maker, and a transformer of spaces. So all of these things kind of are what I do.
So when you were growing up and you were with your mom, and your mom was an activist,
Yes.
And you grew up around the time when the country, especially Black America, was all involved in the South African apartheid protest movement. Yeah. So you watched your mother motivated by fighting for freedom.
Yeah, my mom was, you know, always in the community in St. Louis. All of the politics and things that were going on in there, she was always engaged. And when I came to Chicago, I went to the School of the Art Institute, and at the time they were invested in South Africa. So we, right away, freshman year, I was into activism on those issues that we seen that were wrong as far as that investment. And, you know, activism just comes naturally with me.
What year were you at the Art Institute? I'm sorry.
I started in 1984. And, you know, for me, you know, my abilities or my gift as an artist is directly tied into my burden and my love for my people. So, like I always say, the great sister Nina Simone said, an artist must reflect the times. And for me, that's the most important thing, is that I am reflecting the times. I am speaking for my people. I am celebrating the triumphs and tears of our journey, you know. And me leading the Art Institute and going to Ebony Magazine was just a more potent way of going into that expression, you know, by going to this historic place that chronicles our history. And so that was, you know, like crazy just for me to go and continue that journey from there.
Wow, you were at the Art Institute. Were you still affiliated with the Art Institute when that situation occurred with somebody hanging a picture of Harold Washington in our former mayor, Harold Washington, in lingerie?
I was definitely still there. I was actually a senior at the time that incident occurred. That was in 1988. And I was graduating. The actual artist was an actual classmate of mine, and he was a white artist, and he showed this painting of the late great Mayor Harold Washington in women's lingerie, very disrespectful image.
Very.
And we tried to warn him. We said, "Yo, y'all need to take this down. There's going to be some repercussions," and they didn't do it. And them aldermen came in there and snatched that thing off the wall like it was no problem. And so it was,
oh my God, describe what happened. Nobody, you know, a lot of people listening to this may not have ever even read the story.
It made national news. I mean, it was amazing because, you know, it was just such a disrespectful image. And, you know, he had just died. So we all were still very feeling that.
And suddenly.
Yeah, we were all still in mourning. And so, you know, when the aldermen found out, now I don't know how they found out, but when they found out, man, they came in there and stormed in there and took it off the wall, because they actually told them they told the Art Institute to take it off the wall, and the school of the Art Institute said, no, this is art, blase, blase.
Oh.
And then the aldermen said, okay, and walked right in there and snatched that thing off the wall. So, you know, for us as Black students at the time, I mean, the Art Institute, you know, was kind of like this love-hate relationship with me. I mean, I definitely benefited from being a student there, and I definitely learned some things, but there was also this feeling that it's the height of elitism. And for a Black image maker at the time particularly, the Black image was not celebrated. So there was always this clash of culture and trying to find out who I was as an artist of color in that space. And so and there were always a lack of representation as far as teachers and students as well. So we rallied to each other, and we really, at the time, when the incident happened, we went and spoke. We got on the radio, we went to Operation Push. There was national publicity around it, and we voiced our, not only our feelings about that, but our overall feelings about the Art Institute, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And subsequently, we got a lot of things happening from that, as far as more teachers hired, more activations as far as a Black student union and things like that. So yeah, we were effective in what we tried to do there, you know, in that situation.
That's amazing. I find that to be absolutely amazing. In fact, the year that I came to Johnson Publishing Company was 1987, the year he died. And I remember you hadn't started there yet.
Yeah.
But I remember distinctly, I sat right at Bob Johnson's office, and publisher of Jet magazine, and they did not want the city, the government, they did not want Bob Johnson to come to the funeral, because Bob Johnson at the time, he had he very much believed what some people say is a conspiracy, and some people still aren't quite sure, but he was one who still did not believe that Mayor Washington died of natural causes at the time.
Yeah.
And he actually despised the fact that they were trying to keep the Black press out of the funeral. He did indeed end up going, but it took a string of
that's amazing
F words and every other language that I can imagine, because
I can see Mr. Johnson dropping some F words, because he was known to do that.
He was known to do that. But you started a year later at Johnson Publishing Company.
Yeah, so interesting thing to tie that in is the incident with the painting. When that happened, I was called to a big auditorium. There was a school assembly, and the president of the school at the time, Tony Jones, addressed the students there about the incident. And so somehow he mentioned Mr. Johnson's name, Johnson Publishing Company, and his friendship with the company, and that they had a kinship with the school and wanted to have young Black designers. So I immediately stood up in the middle of this assembly of all the students and stopped the whole assembly and said, yo, I am graduating in May. I'm a graphic design student. I have won several awards here, and I have a portfolio, and yes, I need to get hired by Mr. John H. Johnson.
Oh my God, you did this.
Yes, I did this, and everybody went crazy, of course. And so, but subsequently, you know, I got a interview with Tony Jones first, and then he sent a letter to Miss Foster, the head of personnel, as well.
Doris Foster.
Our dear Miss Foster, and got an interview with Mr. John H. Johnson himself.
Now, you know, we have to hear this story, because we all have our John H. Johnson stories. So let's hear your interview story of how you came.
It was so of course, imagine this young nappy-headed boy from St. Louis who used to draw on the margins of the magazines and on the page, you know, as a child, standing in front of John H. Johnson himself in his building. So,
and even as you were a budding artist, you used to cut out pictures, I read, of from Ebony and Jet magazine.
I still use images to collage with from magazines or from all over, all kind of sources. But yes, I've always used that magazine as a source of finding images to express my artwork. So when I meet him, I go in and here he comes, big as life. And so he looks at my portfolio. He looks at me and he says, so how much money you want to make? What's the price range? So I gave him a wide price range. And then he said, your hired money starting, this is your salary. And so that was it, man. And for 25 years, I worked there. I started as a graphic designer and ended up as the creative manager, creative art director. And, you know, it was amazing time. As you know, that place was indescribable as far as the history. You know, you felt the honor to be there, and you also felt the mission of serving the community and Black people around the world. And so for me to be in charge of the brand, the look, tone, and feel of the brand, and to be in charge of the magazines, Ebony and Jet, and what goes in there as far as the imagery, it's humbling, man. And it's part of the journey. And, you know, shout out to all of our JPC family and friends. We love y'all. The legacy continues.
That's right.
We'll never let it go. We'll keep on riding with Mr. J and his dream.
I can absolutely say that of all the alumni groups I'm a part of, my favorite alumni group that I'm most proud to be a part of is the JPC Alumni Group.
Yeah. Well, look how many years we spent together. I mean, 24, 25 plus years I was there.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of years being around people. And then, you know, we worked tirelessly for hours and hours a day. So we were with our coworkers more than our families a lot of times. So
people don't even realize that. My little brief story, because this is your interview, is when I first came to Johnson Publishing Company, and Mr. Johnson said, well, what is there anything? I flew here from New York on a Monday. And he said, what's preventing you from starting tomorrow? And I said, well, I need to find a place to live. He said, well, don't worry about that. I'll get you a room at the Hilton. I said, well, I mean, I can't just live at the Hilton. He said, why not? And frankly, Raymond, I lived at the Hilton for 1 year.
Wow.
At Mr. Johnson's expense.
That's Mr. J, man.
That's Mr. J. Yeah, yeah.
He was something else, boy. He would make it happen. You know, he didn't believe in failure. He didn't believe in not being able to do something. And that's one of the things I took away from him, you know, in my craft and in my practice as an artist and in life. You know, I believe you can do whatever you put your mind into. And I try to teach my mentor, my students, and in all my young people that I work with, you know, there's no excuses. You know, you can do whatever you want to do, you know.
Yeah, now you had that great nurturing and love from the women in your life, but there were some community organizations that helped you too as a young artist, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I had, you know, like the resources, like I said, it takes a village. And for me, when I came here to Chicago, and when I was at the Art Institute, you know, I went there at the Art Institute to be an artist. But I kind of I went into the graphic design or visual communications department because I wanted a practical skill. But I never stopped creating and making fine art. And so I was always grappling with that. And so I found I found the school, the Southside Community Arts Center. Southside Community Arts Center saved my life because I was going through that whole head game of Blackness in these white spaces. And when I found Dr. Margaret Burroughs, she said, no, son, you make your art, you know, and she reaffirmed that for me and for a lot of us artists in this community. And we were able to say, yeah, I can make Black images and and if they don't accept it, we'll accept it. And my community can accept it. So, yeah, that's what kind of got me fired up. And I've, you know, even at Johnson Publishing Company, I continue to make and show and exhibit art, you know. Eventually, Mr. J and Linda, they joined in to let me and celebrate it with me. But you know,
there's always that tension in the beginning. Where is it going to be you, or is this going to be about us?
Yes, you know, like Mr. J said, you work with him, you work for him. So
that's right.
But I'm smart, so I just let, you know, anything I did outside the company, I included JPC in it. and it was beneficial for them, you know, to have a award-winning artist, award-winning filmmaker working for them. So after they seen that was the case, they kind of you know, said that they were happy that, and they supported me, actually supported me. You know, Linda particularly, after Mr. J died, she supported me in my efforts as a filmmaker and as an artist. She bought some of my work, and I painted a picture of Mr. Johnson after he passed, that the humbly that they put in the lobby for years, when they took his portrait down and put my image of him that I created in the lobby for years. So that was, so I come to work and see my work right there.
Now that's beautiful. And when you think about that, Raymond, there are people at Johnson Publishing Company that we will never forget, ever, ever. People that are just legends in their own, but never appreciated, never celebrated. Who are some of those people that really made a difference for you?
Well, speaking of just careers and mentors and artists, you know, I had two that were like just stalwarts in my life, and not only as mentor me as an artist, but as a man. And so that was Mr. Norman Hunter and Mr. Herbert Temple. Norman Hunter was a phenomenal genius level photographer, art director, designer. He was just ridiculously talented and one of the coolest brothers. Him and his wife were incredible people. They both have since passed. And Mr. Temple, man, he was just, man, Mr. Temple was just incredibly talented, illustrator, painter. And the thing that Mr. Temple does not get the credit about the most is that he was the curator of the Johnson Publishing Art.
Yes. Yes, that didn't just happen, and what a collection it was.
And see, and I actually wrote something about this, because everyone wants to come and claim and take, you know, and celebrate it, but you can't celebrate that without celebrating him, because he was the one who brought the artist to Mr. J, who brought the artist and the art to the company to purchase. So he is sorely misrepresented in that arena as a curator. And but he was my boss. That was my boss, and he was a phenomenal artist. And one thing he always taught me, and I try to pass on to my students when I teach or mentor young artists, is whenever you're in a space, you make yourself invaluable. You make yourself needed. And that's whether you're an employee, whether you're in a conversation, whatever it is, you make yourself invaluable to wherever you are. And you do that by, you know, going above and beyond. You know, don't be satisfied to just be in any space. You make your energy and presence known, and you work hard, you find out, you analyze, you see your situation, you take notes, you listen, and then you manifest what you need to do to make that happen.
Wow, that is beautiful. You know, there's so many young people who don't have that kind of mentoring. And it's one thing for an older person to take a liking to you and mentor you in your skill set, but to teach you that world knowledge. You know, the Black Muse podcast is a production of the Chicago West Community Music Center, which really is a composium without walls. It's a place where young people go to learn music, voice, string instruments. I'll do a promo for it in a little bit, but it's a phenomenal school. And actually, as I hear you talking, I would love to have you come and speak to the students. And it could be a Zoom session.
Yeah, that's no, I do that all the time. I would love to. Yeah. I mean,
I
think
Howard.
That's the most important thing. As far as my practice right now, engaging youth is a priority, almost priority number one, you know, because I believe that ultimately this world is for them to change, you know, for them to make right, for them to, like I said, I always say, reaffirm the humanity of our people. And so, yeah, I'm always interested in engaging youth.
Well, Howard and Darlene Sandifer will be very happy to hear that. And we have to really appreciate that, because I know you talk about Hunter and Temple, and we fondly call them by their last names, no disrespect intended at all. But there were others, you know, People look at Lerone Bennett, God rest his soul,
Oh my God.
historian. I mean, my bond with Lerone Bennett is that I used to buy his vests, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because I used to pick out all the fashion for all of our shoots for Ebony Man magazine. And whenever I could get my hands on vests, that was something he loved. But you, as a young man, were able to do something I couldn't do. And you had the opportunity every day to sit at a lunch table with some of the great
legends. Like, I mean, you mentioned Bob Johnson. Oh my God. Bob was just an incredible human being. I seen stars. I mean, when the stars come in there, they just bow down to Bob. They loved Bob.
Yes.
You know, I'm talking about the biggest stars, Michael Jackson, all these people loved Bob.
Whitney Houston, all of them, Teddy Pendergrass.
He loved him. And then Mr. Bennett, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have never been more at awe and respecting any man more than Mr. Bennett. I just thought he was the smartest, elegant, coolest cat I've ever known, you know, and he was just brilliant. And I just watch him how he would, because we know Mr. J was the boss, but you know, to watch Mr. Bennett, this intellectual, work through all these different things in that company, it was just amazing. And I've never seen him upset. Never seen Mr. Bennett upset once. You know,
he knew how to use his mind.
He knew how
he could argue with words, and he never raised his voice.
Never raised his voice. And when he passed not too long ago, it broke my heart. He was like, you know, and I had the opportunity to eat lunch with them. Now I don't know how they allowed me into this circle, but
I know.
You know, I mean, of course, people probably know that we had a lunchroom and everybody had their little assigned seats, which was kind of weird, you know, but ultimately, you know, I kind of, and I never, you know what, I never abide by that. I would always. So I'm an artist.
I was one who was able to do what I wanted to do too.
And you know, Mr. Johnson used to say, "Well, Raymond, an artist." You know, he used to let me get away with stuff. So I would come there and I'd be sitting there with Mr. Bennett, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Temple, and Bob. You know, sitting there as this little kid, just listening to their stories. And they were talking about politics and sports and music and women and all kind of stuff.
That's why I couldn't sit there.
Yeah, you couldn't sit there. You probably was part of the conversations. But no, it was just a great time, man. And you know, I wish this new entity that has who owns and operates the brand, I wish them well. You know, I actually went on their website recently, and they have a video of a cover shoot that our art director of then Senator Obama and his wife Michelle. And it was cool to see. You know, I didn't have all this gray hair and stuff. I had my locks. They had me on the video, so it was cool to see I was still connected in that way to the company. So yeah, we wish them well.
Well, that's really great. I think about Lerone, and Lerone lived his life on a mission about the narrative of Black people. And when I look at your art, and I'm going to take a moment, and I would like to go through some of your artwork, because what I see is someone hell-bent on changing the narrative from a visual perspective. Before we even look at your art, where did this come from? Your I would say even gall to think that you have the right to call out atrocities, to think that you've got the right to, you know, tell the world that they got the story wrong. Who are you? Who do you think you are?
I'm my grandmama's son. I'm Nan's son. You know, I'm the son.
That's Nan's boy.
She used to call me Soul Man. I'm Soul Man. That's who I am. So, but you know what? I'll tell you the incident that really pushed me forward in my current path. And you know, I was working at Johnson Publishing at the time. I was married and raising my daughter. And you know, I was pretty busy. You know how demanding the job is. I had stopped actually painting and making art. You know, when I came to work, I mean, I was showing my art at the Art Institute. When I came to work at Johnson Publishing Company, I kind of stopped because it was just overwhelming, and I wanted to devote myself on being indispensable. So I really went in hard and stopped painting and stopped creating. But the Million Man March, when the Million Man March happened, I said, I gotta go. I gotta be there. I gotta see what this is. So I took off work. I said, I'm going to the Million Man March.
I went to.
So they said, cool, you can go. And so I didn't go there representing the company. I just went on my own. And so, man, of course, it was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced almost. I mean, you could feel this palatable feeling of love and respect from Black men to Black man. And it lasted for a while. Even when I got back to Chicago, I could still feel that love. But what it did for me, it was like, okay, I need to try to help bring about this feeling every day. This is the way we should feel about each other every day. This shouldn't just be an anomaly, a one-time thing. So I thank the Minister Farrakhan for that, for making it happen. Because that was, I don't know what it meant for anybody else, but I know what it meant for me. And so it triggered to me, like, I need to start getting back to making my art and making and changing spaces and telling my stories. And so I started to study at the Art Institute. I took filmmaking classes and the playwriting classes. So I thought, what can be the most impactful medium for me to affect change? And film, I thought, is the most impactful medium because it's visual, it's music. So I started back to, studying film. And I studied, went to panels and took classes and studied on my own for about 3 years. I went to all the film festivals all over the world and got to know the ins and outs of the business. And then I started to write. And I wrote my first film.
Which, by the way, won many, many awards, even in the UK and Ireland and places that people here don't really think about.
Yeah, I was humbled, like, to see my story. The film was called 12 Minutes. It was about a death row inmate whose last wish was to meet his son. And the film went everywhere on earth. And I showed it in Asia and everywhere. So we made that film. And it was all about, and I needed a painting for the film. At the end of the film, there was a piece of art that was supposed to show. And I had all these artist friends. I was like, yo, I need this painting. And no one could turn it around in the time I needed. I was like, well, I'm an artist. Like, let me get in here and do this. And I went and I closed for 2 days. I worked on this painting and nothing else. And banged out this painting. And it changed that was another moment where, okay, I was like, I forgot how it feels to be in the studio and to be channeled like that and to feel the need to create like that. And once I did that, I never turned back. I never stopped making work. That was probably, what was that? 1996 or something. I can't remember. But from that second on, I continued to make fine art. And again, and I often tell people, like, as successful as the film 12 Minutes was, me being back in that studio, me being back in that room and creating for 2 days got me back in the studio. So all the fine art you've seen since then came from that. So.
And there's a lot of it, and it is absolutely powerful. And I think about it, and I'll keep saying it, the importance of mentors, because you had the gift of Lerone Bennett on the one hand, teaching you the duality of working for a corporate and still doing your own thing. And I still say he laid the path for you, because Mr. Johnson just did not allow that.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
they were
Bennett, Mr. Bennett collected my work too. He collected my work.
I'm not surprised.
And I'm glad the family, after he passed, a lot of his things were, given or sold or whatever.
Auctioned, yeah,
which broke my heart. I called the people. But I understood Joy, but they kept my artwork. The family has my artwork. They told me, we have your artwork. So I wanted to make sure that was the case. But yeah.
That's great. And then you had Mr. Temple, who really taught you the business of art, so that you can do those things. I want to talk about, I want to start looking at some of your art, and I would like you to share with us your thoughts about when I go to Africa. And frankly, my very first I would say, entrance into Black art, I was really, when Black, especially African art, it was always so grotesque. Um, the features, the imagery. It wasn't until I met a friend of mine here who he and his wife collected Black art years ago in my early days. And he had an African art collection unlike anything I've ever seen. It was all sculpting, but these were beautiful sculptures of Black faces and bodies. And I had just never seen that level, that quality of Black art. You understand intellectually and emotionally the yin and the yang of the Black art, you know, from the grotesque side to the. Talk to me about that. And why do you think Black images are shown in such hideous fashions often?
Well, well, for me, I just, you know, my mission, when I think about what I do, why I do what I do, a lot of it revolves around making sense of this world, you know. And I often speak of, you know, there's a tenet in the seminal artist group collective, AfriCobra, and one of their tenets is capturing the absolute naturalism with absolute abstraction and molding those together. That's a tenet of theirs as far as what it makes beautiful art. And so for me, I think about molding the absolute bliss with the absolute hardness or grotesqueness of our existence, molding those together and finding what is in that truth, you know. And so, because that's the kind of life we live in, those times. We live in these times where there are just some horrific things that happen to us as human beings, and particularly as African Americans and Black and brown people all over the world. But then we have the beauty of our family and friends and children. And so, and the love for our loved ones and our women and the love we have for each other as men and women, you know, we got to keep that. We got to keep talking about that. We got to keep exclaiming that. I have a piece that's called The Moment of Two People Kissing. And that piece is people have really galvanized to that piece because, you know, it's important to talk about love and, but it's also important to talk about the atrocities and to show the atrocities as well. So that's what I try to do with my work. I try to do both. Thank you.
And I mean, people who are interested, you guys, I mean, really go to RaymondThomas.com. What's the name of your website?
My website is RaymondAThomasStudios.com. So that's Raymond A. Thomas Studios with an S.com. And you can find all my information there. If you're interested in some work, you can go to my art. And if there's nothing available, you can contact me and have a studio visit here at my studio in Chicago in Bronzeville. I take appointment only visits, and yeah, we can see what we can do for you. But yeah, I'm just humble, sister, to be able to create and try to be a blessing to my community. And yeah, it's been crazy. I have so much stuff going on. It's like, you know, it's like so much going on. Like tonight, I'm in a group exhibition called it's called Let's Get Funky. It's a celebration of blues music in Beverly neighborhood in Chicago. And I'm also working on a cover for the magazine In These Times, which is a 50 plus year old political magazine.
Very impressive, very impressive. And that is a commission piece you're working on.
Yeah, so that'll be the cover. There's a Black Lives Matter issue. The Black Lives Matter organization is like a takeover of this issue and asked me to do this cover. So I'm humbled to have that assignment. And yeah, man, it's just things are coming, you know, and we're just trying to keep it moving.
So what I'm excited about is your future.
Mhm.
When I think back at the past of all that you've accomplished, you are the kind of man, well, that's one of the things that makes a Renaissance man. It's not just, being so well-rounded and knowledgeable in different things, but it's also being able to be a couple of steps ahead of the game, right? Um, so you are now working on, you're still doing the things that you've always done, but you're working on a whole nother area too now. Tell us about this heroism project and the
Yeah,
types of products that may come of it.
yeah. I got two major projects that I'm working on now. One is Heroism, and Heroism is my new art wearable and merchandise company and brand. And so it's coming to you soon. You'll be able to go online and order art wearables, meaning t-shirts and hoodies and other things that are with my art and my brand on it. And you'll also be able to buy limited edition prints and images of my artwork. And it's not, this heroism is not just about you wearing my t-shirts or wearing my art. It's really about examining the notions of what it is to be a hero in these times. And the idea of heroism, it means to exclaim who you are in these times. Because we have a lot of we have a lot of multimedia explosions of showing us in negative ways. And so with heroism, we want to again reaffirm our humanity, and we want people to think of themselves and what they're doing for their community, even if it's just taking care of your kids. What is it that you find heroic about your own journey? And that's what we want to do with the brand, is to empower people to be heroes.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal. I have to say, when I think about this past year with all of the deaths that we've had, the Black community, in fact, the world has been through a lot with the passing of George Floyd. I think when we really think about everything, all the police shootings, nothing prepared us for watching a murder in front of our very eyes, live and in living color. And I would think that this is a time when a lot of artists might just be overwhelmed with explosions of work and creativity and slapping that paint on the canvas. What was your experience during this time of?
Well, it was funny, like right when COVID happened, everything started to shut down, I had just came back from Africa, and then right after that, I had South Africa, and then I had a major show with the Deltas, and then COVID hit, and so I was just like, wow, I need to take a break. I need to, and what it did for me, first of all, I just took it in, everything that was happening, because first you had the COVID, and then you had brother George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. And so when all these things were happening, it was just a lot going on. So I had to like go inward, I had to take a spiritual journey and just think about what it is we were doing, and I actually started working more as an activist, trying to get people organized and thinking about and thinking about the youth as far as what we need to do as a people, and then I started to think about the next phase of my practice as an artist and what I wanted to do. And that's kind of where I am now, which is like this explosion of stuff that's happening. My response to this last year is my next show that will be in October at Blanc Gallery in Bronzeville, and the show is called Portal. And Portal is about basically examining what it is a portal is. Okay, a portal is a doorway to another space, time, dimension possibly, and coupling that with the idea of Sankofa, which is to reach back into your past to bring something forward to your future. So for me, the idea of what this show will be about, it will be about examining the possibilities of what happens when we go through portals, or if we become portals, and what we bring back mentally, spiritually, and physically to be a blessing to us in these times. So the work will manifest that type of energy and what that means, you know. And we were talking, I was talking to you, I think we were talking about the whole idea of vibrations and us as Black people. You know, I believe that, you know, we're all human beings, all matter is made up of the same stuff, all over the cosmos. It's all the same stuff. But there's a particular energy to everything. So as Black people, I believe Blackness has a certain vibration that's unique in the cosmos. And I think a lot of times, you know, people who don't have or understand that Blackness or that vibration, they demonize it, and they try to take it, they try to kill it, they try to steal it, they try to marginalize it. But
and for our ability to understand it and use it for our growth and power.
Exactly. They try to diminish it, you know, as far as us, you know, exactly that, understanding its potency to move us forward. So what I try to do in my practice is reaffirm that and let people know, yeah, this frequency is something that you need to meditate on and understand that your Blackness is a power, and it's an energy that can transcend all of the negativity that's going on in your life, you know, and it can push you forward to those things you want and need to be a blessing here in this plane of reality. So
amazing. I want to take a moment now and just give a little bit of information about Chicago West Community Music Center. This is a Chicago West Community Music Center production. The organization was formed to provide high quality music instruction and community performances to reduce the music-related achievement gap between minority and non-minority students, and between economically disadvantaged students and their more advantaged peers. The mission of the organization is to enhance families and community through music. The vision is to see an ongoing improvement in the economic, intellectual, and social condition of the West Side communities within and nearby Chicago through education and training in the arts. Our impact, and I say our because I'm a proud board member, have been for 3+ years now, to stimulate the personal and educational growth of the young people in our arts program so their full potential is within reach. And we have an exchange program pre-COVID where we send our kids to China, and our Chinese partners send their kids here. And we have a week-long exchange program of instruments and music and composition. And we send our kids to Paris as well. We're looking to broaden that to other places like Brazil, and funny you mentioned the Dominican Republic, but we're interested in broadening their horizons as young musicians.
That's awesome.
Ricardo Muti, who is the conductor of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, has taken a special interest in our kids. He's been out and conducted 2 public rehearsals already. He's coaching one of our young students in opera, and he's just been a great, great friend to the program in ways that we just love. And you are listening to Black Muse, which is a weekly 30-minute video podcast series exploring the rich genealogy of Black culture. It's hosted by my friends, Clarence Waldron and David Houston. And it's created and produced by Howard Sandifer for Chicago West Community Music Center, and funding support comes from the Driehaus Foundation. I am so happy, Raymond Thomas, that we have been able to conduct this interview. What is it that you would like people to know about Black art, why it's important to invest in Black art? What I tell people about you is that it's important to invest in artists like Raymond Anthony Thomas, who really is driven by, you know, the desire to change the narrative of how Black people are depicted in the world.
Well, I mean, yeah, I thank you, sister. I appreciate that. I'm real humble about my journey, man. It's been, for me, it's been enchanting, and but I'm not done. You know, I feel like I have a lot to do. I will say, I wanted to go back and let you know, I'm also the creative director for the Jazz Institute of Chicago. So I'm also affiliated with a musical organization. Jazz is a muse of mine too. You know, jazz music is be all music, but jazz music is very integral in my application and what I do. So I wanted to mention that in conjunction with the music entity that you're working with. But
Definitely. My wheels are spinning the moment you said
yeah,
it.
Heather Island Robinson is the director, a good friend of mine, and she's dynamic and great, and might be some partnership there, might be some synergy, you know.
I will definitely be asking you to
Shout
do
out
it.
to, shout out to the Jazz Institute of Chicago. Gotta say
That's
it, shout out to
right.
people. But yeah, as an artist, man, I would tell people, man, this is a great time to collect Black art. To now, it's funny, the Black image is not being as demonized now. You see a lot of Black artists getting national shine and global shine. We got some Chicago. I put Chicago at the top of anybody's list as far as dynamic, progressive artists. Me personally, I work with the Bronzeville Arts District, and we usually have our trolley tour. So we're going to be having our trolley tour, but it's going to be virtual and regular. So people will be able to come into our spaces and partake in seeing art from all of the different organizations. And it's the biggest Black arts district in the country. So we have the Gallery Gashard, Blanc Gallery, Faze Gallery. We have the Southside Community Arts Center, and we have the Bronzeville Artist Loft where we are. And so all of these entities are within a mile radius, and they're all showing Black art and the art of the African diaspora. So, and it's a great thing that's going on. And yeah, I mean, it's time to get some art, and art is, as we know, is valuable. It's an appreciable. It appreciates, you own it, but it's something you can give to your kids, pass down, makes your life more beautiful to have something in your house at home that means something. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to buy and own original art by African-American artists. It's important.
And we have already decided that sooner rather than later, after that next big show, I'm going to have a beautiful Raymond Thomas piece that's going to be my calling card. Raymond Thomas, I thank you so much for being our guest on Black Muse podcast.
Thank you. Peace and blessings, y'all.